Welcome to Chronicles of the Past. If you are a fan of a great man, Tyler Perry's groundbreaking work in film, television, and theater, you're in the right place. Here, we dive deep into the life, legacy, and creative genius of Tyler Perry, from his powerful storytelling to the cultural impact of his projects. Whether it's his iconic Medea series, his inspiring journey in Hollywood, or his dedication to uplifting stories that resonate with audiences worldwide, we've got it all covered. So hit that subscribe button and join me as we explore the extraordinary world of Tyler. The early life and struggles of Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry, an icon in the entertainment industry, was born on September 13, 1969, in New Orleans, Louisiana. He was the only child of Emmett Perry Sr. and Willie Maxine Perry. While his mother worked as a schoolteacher and his father worked multiple jobs, their household wasn't exactly what one would call stable. From an early age, Tyler was exposed to a complex, often painful family dynamic. His father, Emmett Sr., was a strict and often abusive figure. He ruled their household with an iron fist, using both physical and emotional abuse as a way to assert control. Tyler's mother, on the other hand, was a loving woman who, despite facing her own personal challenges, worked hard to provide for him. She did her best to protect Tyler from his father's violent outbursts, but the scars from this abuse were undeniable. Tyler's father's actions weren't just violent, but also emotionally distant, and he seemed to take pleasure in belittling his son. Tyler later described how his father would call him worthless, saying he was never going to amount to anything. This created a profound sense of insecurity and self-doubt in him. However, amidst this turmoil, Tyler's mother, Willie Maxine Perry, provided him with the love and comfort he needed, teaching him about faith and the power of resilience. Living in a home with an abusive father and a mother who was constantly struggling to make ends meet was incredibly difficult for young Tyler. He was often exposed to violence, and his father would occasionally beat him, contributing to his deep sense of fear and anxiety. This atmosphere of abuse, fear, and insecurity created a deep emotional burden for Tyler as he navigated his childhood. Though Tyler's family did not have much money, they did their best to survive in a neighborhood that was rife with poverty and instability. As a young boy, Tyler would see how his mother would sacrifice her own needs to ensure that he had what he needed. Even though she was struggling herself, she always made sure Tyler felt loved and supported. Despite the challenges they faced, Tyler's mother encouraged him to pursue education and his interests. He would later reflect on how the experience of growing up in such a tumultuous environment left a lasting impact on him. It was these experiences that would inspire many of his later works, which often reflect themes of overcoming adversity and healing from trauma. Tyler Perry's early childhood was marked by several challenges. Poverty was one of the biggest hurdles that the family faced. Living in New Orleans, a city with its own set of social and economic struggles, made it difficult for his family to get by. They moved frequently from one apartment to another, constantly trying to stay one step ahead of the harsh conditions that came with living in such an environment. His childhood wasn't just marred by the poverty that surrounded him, but also by the emotional abuse from his father. As if the weight of poverty and an abusive parent weren't enough, Tyler also had to endure bullying. His classmates would pick on him for his stutter, making him feel even more isolated. Stuttering, something he struggled with throughout his childhood, became yet another source of insecurity. He could not communicate freely with others and felt like he was misunderstood and ostracized. At the same time, Tyler's father would often mock him for his stutter, calling him names and belittling him in front of others. The emotional toll of this ridicule would shape Tyler's self-esteem, making him believe that he was inferior. But despite all of these hardships, Tyler found solace in something that would eventually become the cornerstone of his career: writing and performing. He had an intense love for storytelling and often turned to drama as a way to escape from the harsh realities of his home life. Tyler Perry discovered his love for writing and drama at a very young age. He was drawn to the theater, even as a child, and found comfort in it. He was particularly interested in the idea of escaping into a different world, one where he could express himself freely and not be bound by the trauma and challenges he faced at home. When Tyler was a teenager, he became aware of his passion for writing. The art of storytelling gave him a sense of purpose. He began to write letters, keeping journals to release his feelings, and these personal writings slowly began to turn into full-fledged stories. Writing became a form of therapy for him, a way to deal with the pain and anger he felt from the abuse at home. He was also drawn to the idea of using performance to tell stories. Tyler discovered that the theater could provide a safe place for him to express his emotions. Even as a child, he would perform in local plays and community theaters, though his stutter would often get in the way of his performances. Still, his passion for drama was evident, and he worked hard to overcome these obstacles. Tyler's breakthrough moment in understanding the power of storytelling came when he was exposed to the gospel plays of playwrights like Paul Laurence Dunbar and the works of other African-American playwrights. These plays resonated with him deeply, and they inspired him to write and create works that reflected his own life and struggles. However, Tyler didn't have immediate success in his creative journey, and it would take years of persistence before his voice would be heard. As Tyler entered adulthood, he faced the harsh reality of trying to break into the entertainment industry. He moved to Atlanta, Georgia, in the early 1990s, hoping to find success and a way to tell his story to the world. At this time, he was still struggling financially, and he faced many rejections along the way. He began writing his own plays, but his early experiences were far from glamorous. In 1992, Tyler wrote and staged his first play, I Know I've Been Changed, which was loosely based on his own experiences with abuse and personal struggles. However, the play failed to gain attention initially, and Tyler was left to grapple with the sense of failure. Despite the setback, Tyler didn't give up. He continued to write, directing and producing his work with his own limited resources. For several years, Tyler faced rejection after rejection. He found himself working day jobs just to survive and fund his dreams of being a playwright. He struggled to make ends meet and often lived in his car or slept on friends' couches. It wasn't until 1998, when he revived his play I Know I've Been Changed, that things started to turn around. After years of hard work and perseverance, Tyler finally caught a break in 1998. His play I Know I've Been Changed found a strong audience, particularly in the African-American community, and was eventually recognized as a significant work in theater. The play's success gave him the confidence he needed to continue writing, performing, and producing plays. In the years that followed, Tyler Perry would go on to create and produce a string of successful plays, eventually branching out into television and film. His most famous creation, the character of Medea, a tough, wise, and often hilarious matriarch, would become a cultural phenomenon. Tyler Perry's rise from the depths of abuse, poverty, and rejection to becoming a household name is a testament to his unwavering determination and belief in his own talent. His story is not only one of overcoming adversity, but also of using his experiences to fuel his creative genius, proving that even in the most difficult circumstances, hope and persistence can lead to success. Tyler Perry's journey to success wasn't an easy one. Growing up in New Orleans, his teenage years were marked by internal struggles, the pressure of finding his place in the world, and feeling trapped in a life that seemed to offer no way out. From the outside, life for Perry appeared typical. His father was absent from the home, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings. Perry often recalls the turbulent environment at home, with his mother being emotionally and physically abusive at times, leaving deep emotional scars. The lack of a father figure only added to the chaos and confusion of adolescence. Despite this turmoil, Perry's first brush with creativity came early in his life. He found solace in writing and storytelling, which served as an escape from the harsh reality he was experiencing at home. But in his teenage years, his passion for writing was overshadowed by a growing sense of depression and isolation. He wasn't yet sure where his talents could take him, but he felt the weight of his struggles pressing down on him. Bullying was a significant part of Perry's adolescence. As a young boy, Perry struggled with his appearance, his self-esteem, and his place within the social structures of school. His peers often targeted him for his introverted nature, and in some cases, for his unique style and interests. He wasn't like the other kids in his neighborhood. This isolation from his peers made his teen years especially difficult. It's something Perry reflects on often, acknowledging how the pain he experienced became fuel for his future work. However, despite these painful years, Tyler Perry found his voice. Writing became his emotional outlet. He began to pour his feelings of rejection, sadness, and confusion into stories and plays. But even this creative outlet couldn't fully shield him from the deep emotional scars he carried. His depression began to take its toll, and his struggles with low self-worth and a sense of direction only grew as he entered his late teens. At 16, feeling like there was no hope for change in his hometown of New Orleans, Tyler Perry made a bold decision. He was going to leave. He packed his bags and moved to Atlanta, determined to reinvent himself and find a fresh start. The decision to leave his home at 16 was a turning point in Perry's life. It was not just a geographical move, but a symbolic escape from the emotional chaos that had defined his earlier years. Perry has often described his time in New Orleans as a period of emotional and psychological pain that seemed never-ending. His decision to leave was his way of taking control over his life and trying to find a new path forward, even if that meant doing it alone. Arriving in Atlanta, Perry had no family to turn to, no safety net and no clear plan. He was essentially starting from scratch. His dream was to create a better life for himself and to focus on his passion for writing. But the harsh reality of life hit him hard. The reality of starting over wasn't as glamorous as Perry had hoped. His arrival in Atlanta came with a series of challenges that tested his resilience and determination. At the time, Atlanta was a bustling city with many opportunities, but Perry had no money, no job, and nowhere to live. He spent many nights sleeping in his car or on park benches, struggling to stay warm and fed. His financial situation was dire. To survive, Perry worked various odd jobs, from working as a waiter to cleaning hotel rooms, doing whatever it took to make ends meet. He didn't have the luxury of being able to pursue his passion for playwriting full-time, but even as he struggled to find stability, he continued to write plays in his spare time, pouring his emotions and life experiences into his work. During this period of struggle, Perry's resilience began to develop. He learned how to persevere through adversity, understanding that his creative dreams were worth the fight, even if it meant sacrificing comfort and security. These years of hardship would shape his character, molding him into a person who would later rise to incredible heights in the entertainment industry. As difficult as life in Atlanta was, Tyler Perry's creativity never left him. In fact, the struggles he faced only fueled his desire to succeed. Perry found that writing was not just a hobby, but a life-saving tool that allowed him to process his pain and begin the healing process. He wrote plays that tackled deep emotional themes, exploring issues of faith, family, love, and loss. His early works were raw and honest, reflecting his own experiences with depression, loneliness, and the search for meaning. He continued to write despite facing constant rejection. For years, Perry's plays went unnoticed. He performed at small theaters and community centers, barely making enough money to cover his costs. But he never gave up. His passion for telling stories that spoke to the heart of his audience kept him going. Through it all, his belief in himself and his work never wavered. He knew that one day his voice would be heard, and that his stories would connect with people who had been through similar struggles. Perry's breakthrough moment came when he was finally able to put together a full production of one of his plays, I Know I've Been Changed. The play was inspired by his own struggles with self-worth and depression, and it resonated deeply with audiences. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and for the first time Perry saw that his work had the power to reach and heal people. In a way, this was the moment that Tyler Perry began to transform his pain into something powerful and lasting. His resilience and his creative drive were beginning to pay off, even though the journey was still far from over. He had endured the worst of his teenage years, the struggles of homelessness, and the challenge of finding his voice. Now, with his first successful play, Perry had proof that his dreams were possible, and he began to take his career seriously. From that moment on, Perry's career began to gain momentum. He continued to write, produce, and perform his plays, slowly building a loyal following. The themes of his work, often based on faith, family, and overcoming personal struggles, struck a chord with audiences especially within the African American community. His plays grew in popularity, and soon he was able to afford his own theater. Perry's persistence and belief in his craft had finally paid off. Today, Tyler Perry is one of the most successful filmmakers, playwrights, and producers in Hollywood. His journey from homelessness and hardship to creative success is a testament to his resilience and determination. He has overcome every obstacle life has thrown at him, and his story continues to inspire countless individuals around the world who are facing their own struggles. Through it all, Perry has stayed true to the creative drive that helped him survive his toughest years. His resilience, honed during the painful times of his teenage years and early adulthood, helped him push through the darkest of times and create art that has touched millions. Tyler Perry, one of the most successful filmmakers and playwrights of our time, did not always have it easy. His rise to fame is a remarkable testament to perseverance, resilience, and the ability to overcome obstacles. In the late 1990s, Perry was struggling with financial instability, homelessness, and rejection from the very industry he longed to be a part of. Yet, in the face of adversity, he created a path to success that would eventually redefine the landscape of black cinema and theater. His story is one of determination, passion, and a commitment to creating content that resonated with audiences. Tyler Perry's journey to success began with the creation of his first play, I Know I've Been Changed, which was inspired by his own life experiences and struggles. Born in New Orleans and raised in Atlanta, Perry endured a tumultuous childhood, including abusive relationships, poverty, and feelings of inadequacy. As he grew older, he felt the urge to create something that would reflect his experiences and allow him to heal from the emotional wounds of his past. In the mid-1990s, Tyler Perry was deeply influenced by the writings of Oprah Winfrey, whose personal stories of overcoming hardship inspired him. Perry began to channel his own pain into writing, developing his first play, I Know I've Been Changed. The play, which focused on themes of forgiveness, faith, and personal redemption, was a direct reflection of Perry's desire to understand and overcome his own troubled past. The play's story centers around the idea of transformation, where the characters go through profound emotional and spiritual growth. Perry wrote the play with a raw honesty that resonated deeply with many, as it dealt with issues of abuse, personal identity, and self-worth. The title itself speaks to the process of healing as the characters navigate through difficult experiences and emerge stronger. Despite the emotional weight and relevance of I Know I've Been Changed, Tyler Perry's journey to bring the play to the stage was anything but easy. The path to success was riddled with rejection, financial struggles, and an uphill battle to find an audience. Perry's first attempt at producing the play was met with skepticism from the established theater industry. He struggled to get his work recognized by mainstream producers and theater companies, many of whom dismissed him as an unknown playwright with no credentials. Perry faced significant financial challenges as well. At the time, he had little money, and putting on a production of his play seemed like an impossible task. He had no investors or backers, and traditional theaters weren't interested in the kind of work he was trying to do. For a period, Perry even lived in his car while trying to get his production off the ground. This time in his life was marked by extreme hardship and doubt. Yet, despite the obstacles, Perry's belief in his play and its message kept him going. After several years of rejection and frustration, Tyler Perry made the bold decision to self-produce I Know I've Been Changed. With a small loan and his own determination, Perry rented a small theater in Atlanta and began performing the play himself. This was a critical turning point in Perry's career, as it marked the beginning of his entrepreneurial spirit and his refusal to accept defeat. Self-producing the play was no small feat. Perry faced the challenge of promoting the show, finding an audience, and generating enough income to cover the costs of production. To build an audience, he relied heavily on word of mouth, local community support, and grassroots marketing. Perry often performed the play multiple times a week, tirelessly putting in the work to ensure that the production would succeed. Performing in small, intimate theaters allowed Perry to connect with his audience in a way that larger venues could not. The people who came to see the play were drawn to its heartfelt themes, and they quickly became his most loyal supporters. These early audiences were predominantly black churchgoers, who resonated with the spiritual and redemptive messages in Perry's work. This group of supporters became the backbone of Perry's early success, attending performances and spreading the word about his powerful storytelling. Do you want to see how this story ends? Well, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Part 2 is just around the corner, but you'll have to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and get ready for the ride. The real drama's just about to start on the next part, and you'll be the first to know when it drops. I want you to tell me something we need to know. Thank you so much, and God bless you.